We would like to record on this computer. Well, okay, so we'll get started, and if anyone joins, that's totally fine. I know Angela will have a meeting that she'll leave for, and then hopefully she'll be back. But we record this, that way you guys can watch it later. And I had realized I hadn't sent the recording of the previous one, so that's what I did last night. I'm like, oh, I'm falling behind. But I'm excited that you guys are on. I appreciate you taking some time so that we can talk and just see what kind of ideas we come up with and what conversations we have together. And so hopefully you guys are having an awesome week so far.
Google it.
I've got a couple questions that we're going to start out with that hopefully will help us to get to know each other even just a little bit better. So here's two questions to think about. So get ready. First, what is
my microphone's muted so they can't hear a thing.
Favorite vacation memory as a child?
Yeah, I got to figure out why.
So that's the first question. What's your favorite vacation memory as a child? And then once you have that, why do you think this memory stands out in your mind? So I'm typing it out. That way you guys can see the question as well. You might have to think a little bit about this. Your favorite vacation memory as a child.
Okay.
Anybody got anything?
Slide the change with button slider to the
I don't have a.
Oh, ready, go.
I don't have a specific memory, but my grandparents were snowbirds, so a lot of Christmas breaks we drive down to Florida. My parents always take a different route, so we could stop and see different attractions on the way down. So I think just being exposed to different experiences and being able to see a lot of different things is really kind of.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great memory. Anybody else have a favorite vacation memory as a child?
I do.
Hey, Ange, we can't see you. What's your memory?
Well, this is so weird. Like, it's just weird that you hear me and you can't see me. Definitely going to Florida. I loved going to Florida to see my grandparents every year. My dad's dad, he lived across from the ocean on Madeira Beach, and we used to we could see the ocean from his house, and we would walk across the street and enjoy the ocean. And of course, those trips always meant we would go to Disney World or Universal Studios or something like that. And what kid does not remember going to Disney World? It's just so magical.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Mary, what about you?
Well, mine is, we did a lot of camping when I was a kid, and we still do that. I think those are memories that stick with me because you're with family and you don't have to deal with society, and you're just in the woods and enjoying nature. And so I think camping with the family is good memories that I have.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was in a...
Yeah, absolutely.
I was in a chat meeting.
When I was thinking about mine, Mary, is similar to yours. So my family, growing up, every year we went to a different Yogi Bear park that was around. And I remember that as a kid. I remember, it's funny because, they're all a little bit different, but they're all like exactly the same still. I mean, it's just camping, and then they have like activities where you can meet Yogi Bear and all that. And I remember taking pictures with my siblings. The one had like a giant Yogi Bear, and you could climb inside the basket and take a picture in the basket. And I loved camping as a kid. And for me, just the fact that we got to go to like those parks, and I'm pretty sure we went to like probably everyone you could possibly go to, was definitely a memory I enjoyed as a kid. What about you, Christina? Oh, for some reason.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. I was like,
I'm spending the last 5 minutes trying to figure out my microphone. Favorite. My dad liked to take us to a lot of different places, so we traveled to a lot of the different states, and probably one of my more favorite ones was probably our trip out west. We spent 2 weeks, and we went out to Yellowstone and Grand Tetons and all that kind of stuff with my cousins in a gigantic RV. So it was fun.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that and being awesome. We always have our little, thing at the beginning to kind of get us into it so we get to know each other better. So we're going to jump right into some of these videos that we got to watch. And yeah, there was so much good stuff, which I'm excited to just kind of hear you guys' thoughts. So the first one we're going to talk about was the team building video that was done, that team building #1 by Pastor Kelly. And so I'm going to bring up my notes on that somewhere. I have them all at the bottom of my screen. There we go. So he had read that 2 Timothy 2:2. It says, "You have heard me teach things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses. Now teach these truths to other trustworthy people who will be able to pass them on to others." I loved this video and the idea of building a team. I like to do ministry with other people, like no matter what. I never want to do it by myself. It's way more fun that way. And ministry can be super busy and demanding. I think we all know that. I always tell people, even though it's my job, it is also like a huge part of your life, right? It's not just, okay, I went to like a 9 to 5 and then ministry was done. And you guys know we have things that come up, whether it's with families or kids or whatever. And if we're truly wanting to minister, we're ready at any time. The other thing too is that Sunday comes every week, right? We can't stop it from coming. It always comes, and we have to be ready at every point, at every point for that Sunday to come, to minister to the kids, to minister to the families in our church. And so the question for you guys, what do you guys think building great kids ministry teams, or why do you think building great ministry teams is important? Pastor Kelly kind of talked about building those teams, but why do you guys think that that's important for us to have great kids ministry teams?
Well, for me, it kind of multiplies what I'm able to do, because I'm only one person and I can't be in 20 million different places at one time. So, I mean, just kind of honestly, it just makes you're maybe able to do more things, and better too, because people on your team have different skill sets and different gifts and talents and abilities that you don't, and where you are lacking, they fill in the gaps. And I mean, those are just kind of purely selfish reasons on my part, just to make myself better and to make what we do better. But the other aspect is I just got back from the Next Gen leadership thing that we've had here in the state, and it was really great. And Matt's one of his opening service was about when you see how God values you, then you see the value that God sees in others. And that was really cool, because I think when we recognize God's value on the people that are on our team, we can see that their potential, we can facilitate their potential and facilitate the God calling on their life to do children's ministry or whatever it is that God's calling them to do. So when we work together as a team and we build a team, it makes our church better. It makes us a better family. It makes us a better community. And ultimately, I think it just fulfills a great commission. Go into all the world. You can't do it by yourself. You do it together.
Yeah, that's good. Anybody else have thoughts on that? Why it might be important to build that?
Well, I know with having a team, I agree with Christina about everything. I was at that Next Gen too. It was awesome. I discovered that like when part of our team is not there, we're missing part of our family, and it's a lot. You try to cover everything knowing that you're missing part of it, and it's just a blessing to actually have a team that you can rely on, that show their talents, and you don't have to worry about everything. You've got other team members that can help lift the load and do the ministry with you. So it's a lot less stressful when you have a good team that stands behind you.
Yeah, that's good. I know I loved when he was talking and he said that, you know, kind of talking about the concept of building a team. It's not just finding people to like do stuff. It's finding people to reproduce your heart of ministry in them. And so I think about that. So I don't know if you guys all know, because I can't remember if I told you, but I am currently at the church that Kelly Presson was at before me, but I also served underneath him, and Christina was here as well. I served with him for a little bit. Yeah.
I don't know how you do it, you crazy girl.
I don't know. I close my eyes, come in, and I'm like, all right, Jesus, it's all you. But when I was here serving under him, I mean, for me, I had watched him on a stage in our church. When he was here, they did like kids ministry and the adult service once a year. And I remember watching him up there, and he was so enthusiastic and he was so passionate, and he was so like, his whole team was, oh my gosh, I need to do that. And so I joined his ministry, and he is very, very good at producing the heart of kids ministry in other people. He didn't just pull a team in and say like, I just need people, and so I'm just going to have you do this. I mean, he trained, he passed his passion on. I am where I am today because of him, because he would tell me all the time, if I was ever a pastor of church, he'd be my kids pastor. And I would laugh like, haha, you're funny. You know, no, I'm not going to do that. And so one thing that I'm trying to learn how to be and how to do is what he did for me. Like he looked and saw in people their gifts, their abilities, and pulled that out of them. And it takes a lot to be able to do that, more so than just, well, I just need people so I can get stuff done, you know? So it's like changing our attitude, and even changing our heart of, we want people to serve. And yes, we do need people to help, right? But we want to reproduce ourselves and others. And so how do we do that? Like, how do I reproduce myself and the passion I have in someone else? And I think part of that is those words of encouragement and admonishing what you see in people, because there's a lot of times that people don't see those things in themselves. Again, you know, so you might say something and it might spark a thought in their mind of like, oh, I've never thought that way before. And that's what building, to me, a great kids ministry team is about. Not necessarily just having numbers, you know, I need to have X amount of people, but I want to reproduce myself. I want to have people that are serving. I tell our team this all the time. Like, I want to be able to tell a parent with 100% confidence that everyone that serves in our kids ministry is completely passionate about their kids. And when I got here, there were some that were kind of passionate about kids ministry, and some that were serving for whatever reason out of obligation, or some that were just serving because they have a kid in our ministry. And so when those people stepped out, I said to them, I love you, I bless you. And like, where do you want to, like, where is your heart to serve? Because I want people to serve where they're passionate. And if it's not kids ministry, that's okay, because God will bring those people to build our team. So I want you guys to think about this real quick. If you had an additional 2 to 3 leaders with your heart for kids, how could that impact your ministry? So even just having 2 or 3 leaders that have the same heart you have for your kids, for the kids ministry you lead, how could that impact your ministry?
I have to think through that one a little bit.
This one takes a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
You could do so much more with a huge team. My gosh, you could be out. I mean, it would be outstanding.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, you just get to reach more kids.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
I think it's just about the gospel then. You know, if you can multiply yourself effectively in your passion, and you can, you know, it's just, you know, compounds on itself. If you can get the heart of other people to say the same heart as you, and they do the same thing, it just compound, and then you're reaching more people with the gospel. And I think that's what we're called to do anyway. Just all around better ministry.
That's good. Yeah, I love that. Even just thinking of 2 or 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for me, that makes it less overwhelming. You know, you start with the few and start reproducing in those people and start and and pray and ask God to lead you. God, show me. Or you might already know. You might be thinking like, oh yeah, those, like that person or those two people, I feel like they already are there, or they're getting there. Now, how do I help take it to the next level? But I think about that, man. If I had 2 to 3 people that had my same heart and my same passion for kids ministry, you guys are right. The possibilities are endless. You could do so much more. I think that's why it's important to be building that team, because we can't do everything by ourselves. I don't think we're called to do it all by ourselves,
I think it's a Jesus model. I mean, he only had 12, and then he had his 4 inner core group of people that, I mean, those people, that inner core and that 12, group of people really changed the world. So I guess if we can kind of keep that mindset and that model, it is more like what Jesus did. So
yeah, imagine that. Doing ministry like Jesus, right?
Right.
Yes.
The thought I have is that having those 2 to 3 extra leaders with your same heart, it all of a sudden makes this a lot more fun.
Yeah. Yes.
Instead of feeling all the stress and the weight on yourselves, you get to have fun with a group of people all out with the same goals and the same mindsets. And I don't know, just doing things with other people can be a lot more fun than doing it all on your own.
Yeah.
And it is fun watching them grow. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing my leaders blossom and take off, and it gives you joy, really. It honestly does.
Yeah. That's good. Any other thoughts on that, having leaders that have your same heart?
My biggest question is, what does it look like? So, a lot of everybody's busy, and a lot of times our main contact time is Sunday. So how do we build that so there's that space to multiply our hearts in other people? What do you guys do that? And whether it's handling schedules or utilizing time and space that's our, what does that look like?
That's a good question. I'm writing it down.
For me, what it kind of looks like is I have to invest into some people that I kind of hear little bits and pieces of passion about. And so I try to working on narrowing that down. Who are those core people who want to be in church, who do a lot of prep work for it, who engage and who are part of it. So kind of as they're a part of kids ministry, and I watch them, so I'm always observing, the leaders and seeing who's kind of rising to the top of really being passionate about kids ministry. And then it's spending time with them. It's going out for lunch. It's talking with them. It's texting with them. And then I think part of it too is, and I want to grow in this part. I have a long ways to go, but meeting with that core group of people and asking them for their ideas and what do they see, what dreams they have, and then applying it to our kids ministry and see how it all works with the vision that we have together as a whole.
That's good. I know there's a couple things that I try to do, and so I'm a person that is all about over communication rather than under. At least I try to be. So to my entire team, I send out a weekly email, and so for my elementary people, their lesson is attached to that email, but I've broken it down into sections. My beginning part of my email is always like a devotion, or this past one I had sent to them our vision of our kids ministry with our 5 core values, which I had sent to them before, but just keeping that in front of them. So I sent it out again and just some thoughts on that. And I usually try to keep that devotion part really short. But it's like sharing my heart, either what God's showing me in the moment or a devotion about that can directly tie into the kids ministry, whatever I feel like that I want to send to them. And so that's one way I've been trying to communicate at least the vision and the heart of our kids ministry as a whole, and my heart. We have a Facebook page for the leaders that serve. And so another thing I started doing was I've been trying to do more engaging things on that page, because in the past it's been like, okay, if there's an event, we post the event and we invite them to the event, and that's what the page was. I started posing questions to them, like, what is your favorite thing about serving in kids ministry? Was one of my questions that I had asked, and just seeing people's responses. I also started tagging people in it, because,
That's a great idea.
Yeah, if it's me, I don't always see it. So I'm like, I'm tagging their name, and they'll respond, but then it's cool because then you see other people responding to the other responses. So interactions between our group is another thing I've done. And then I just actually went through my 2019 calendar, which is weird because I'm like, we're still in 2018, but, and just started plugging in, we're going to do like a couple, we're calling them leadership lunches in 2019 with our whole kids ministry, where I can share more of my heart and more of my vision. And I know you're not going to get everybody to come when you do like a meeting or a lunch. It's just never going to happen. And here, the team I have is larger than the team I had at the church I was at prior. But God spoke to me at the church I was at before being here, because He had laid it on my heart there to do a once a month meeting with people, which I haven't done that here, but I did it there. And I was like, man, once a month, that's a lot to ask of people. They're probably not going to show up. They're busy. And what God spoke to me was, am I willing to invest in the people that show up? Because, so you're thinking of 2 to 3 leaders you can reproduce yourself in. I had one time where 4 people came out of my team, and I had a lot more people that served than 4, but 4 showed up. And instead of being discouraged, I was encouraged by the 4 that did come. And that was kind of God's thing to me, is we have a heart to reproduce ourselves, and we have a heart to share our passion and to see people grow in their passion and to develop their gifts. But if they don't have a heart for that, there's nothing we can do about it. And so who are the ones that are willing? Christina, you talked about going out and meeting one-on-one or having lunches or whatever with people. You can't make them do that with you. But the ones that want to come, like, those are the ones worth investing in. And so are we willing to invest in people that want to be invested in, and not get discouraged by the people that don't, and know that there's always going to be some that don't want it. They don't want to be trained. They don't want to, they're not going to show up. I had one lady who, she didn't show up for a single meeting. I was at that church for almost 5 years, and she never showed up to a single thing that I did for kids ministry. She was faithful in serving, and she always came to serve, but she never came to a meeting. She never came to a lunch. She didn't come to anything. And so instead of focusing on her, I could lose my sight on everybody else, because I'd be so focused on the fact that she doesn't show up that I'm missing all the people that do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so that was what God really spoke to me. I don't know if that's helpful, but anybody else have stuff that you guys do to share your heart, your vision, to try and develop leaders?
We're actually having our actual first really big leadership meeting the 9th of September. And I'm really kind of excited about it, because our lead pastor is going to be speaking to them too.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're going to talk about, I think about the conference that we had gone to, that Next Generation one. And I have to remind myself, how often do I let them know that they are valued? How often do I let them know that they're appreciated for all that they do? So that's going to be one of my main focuses is at our meeting is, you guys are, you are a part of this. You're a part of sharing your heart with these kids and, making connections. So I think I like the idea of you doing it, twice a year. And like I said, this is our first big one. So I'm thinking I might do ours twice a year too. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Anybody else?
I think one more thing is sometimes we just need to ask. For me, sometimes that's really hard to say, hey, and point it out in them. Like sometimes people don't even see what God's already doing in them. And, saying, I really see that you have a passion for kids ministry. And I really would like you to be a part of a more inner core type of team. And so for me, that was really hard, just kind of giving, always kind of concerned that just going to say, no, you're crazy or whatever. But learning just to ask and then let God do the rest of it. Let him be the one who brings the team to you, but you have to be faithful in asking. They're not going to come on a team if you don't ask them. So, just those kind. I think that's really practical. I do a fall and a spring meeting too. I think that's really helpful in developing our leaders. And there's some things I want to do too, Mary, about making sure that my team knows that we appreciate them. Like at our next team meeting that we're going to have, I really loved that at the retreat that we were at. Matt and his wife individually wrote hand notes
That
to
was
each
really
one
cool.
of us and had them sitting at our table with our packet, with our name in the packet. It was just those little tiny touches of like, you're important, you matter. And it's just very sweet. So it's things like that I'm going to be looking to kind of encourage my leaders and let them know how thankful I am for them and what they mean to us as a team.
That's good. So good. All right, I got another question for you guys to think about. Do you have enough leaders in place right now to handle the growth that God wants to give your church?
No.
No.
Okay. I know, I feel like that could be the answer for everyone, yes? And then here's the part two. If not, what are your plans to change that? Oh, that I typed it out. A lot of those words are all one big word. Sorry, but hopefully you can read that question. So.
Well, I think about what Pastor Kelly shared about how the hallway,
Yeah.
hanging out in the hallway and connecting with people. And we don't get that opportunity very much, but I do know the next time I get to go to big church,
Yeah.
I'm going to make those connections. And he also said, a lot of times he'll just stand in the back and he'll just watch people.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I think I'm going to put more of an effort into. I want to get more of that one-on-one and that personal relationship with people and, really see what their giftings are and if they, if it's something that they would like to get involved with, even if it's just a little thing. We're trying to, right now, I'm trying to get some women of our church to cook just a main meal for our Wednesday night kids. And then the leaders would add side dishes to it because we feed our kids every Wednesday. So, I'm kind of looking for people who like to cook.
Yeah.
That's a very important ministry to these kids because a lot of them come in hungry. And so I think my direction is going to be more on that one-on-one personal touch type kind of thing.
That's good. Any other thoughts on that? If we don't have enough leaders, do you have a plan to change that?
One of the things I've been thinking through is on my current team, we have a number of people who work in our check-in station, but I'm watching them and like they've got the skills and the heart to actually be more intentionally involved as like a connection group leader or, to kind of grow into like helping with lead teaching and stuff like that. So kind of pegging some of the people on the team who are underused and then helping them to expand what they're doing and then create space. So there's an easy on-ramp to the team for other people who aren't really sure, where the check-in team is less of a commitment than sitting each week with a small group kind of a thing. So thinking through that way where if we got people who might be on the fence is the responsibilities that would be for them to say yes to, just to get them, kind of their foot in the door and to help them see what's happening back there, kind of catch the vision that way.
That's good.
For me, it's been an interesting season at our church. My first Sunday in the elementary K through 5th grade, we had 8 students the first day. And then now we're probably around between 35 and 40 students on a Sunday in 3 years. So we've had growth in every department. So I feel like every next scheduling calendar, I'm adding and trying to build. And it's been kind of tiring and kind of mentally exhausting because sometimes there are so many holes even when I put the schedule out, and I really have asked God to fill the holes I mean, I'm like, it's your problem, Lord. This is your church, and I'm doing my best. I'm asking people. And it's amazing to me that every Wednesday and every Sunday, somebody's serving. We haven't had to close down anything. And God provides the people, but I have to be faithful on my end to ask, to reach out to people, to get to know people. And one of the things that I've been kind of working on, it's a little different than what you guys are doing at CC's. I don't really remember how it worked out with this parent partnering thing that you guys did over there. But one of the things that I'm kind of working on is getting to know each parent, spending some time talking with each parent individually as they get to know them, because we're a little bit on the smaller side, but talking with them about how important it is that they're a part of the spiritual development and life of the child at our church. And so I just put out in our newsletter that, it's really important that at least one member of your family be somewhere involved in some sort of level of involvement. Because it's not about like just filling a hole for babysitting. It really is about building a relationship with Jesus and your child and you being a part of that. And so that's something I've been working on, and it's really been working well because I talk with them. I talk with the parents, and they get the heart of that. Rather than just a piece of paper saying they have to do something. I get to talk with them. So it's one way that I've been trying to do that. So pretty much I go through every list and I see which families of parents aren't involved. And then every calendar when I'm redoing it, I'm going in, I'm talking with parents and seeing where they feel like they could fit in and be okay and comfortable. And it might not be comfortable for them, but they are a parent who has children and they need to be a part of the spiritual development of that. And so we work through it and we find places where they can grow and develop passion and all that kind of stuff. So it's one thing that I'm working on.
Yeah, that's good. I know when I got here, we changed that because I read the letter that was being sent out, and David, my husband, read it and he said, if I got this letter and I was new to this church, I would leave because kids are not his thing. So I changed our letter a little bit and kind of more so painted the picture of the importance and what it looks like for them to be part of the ministry that their kids are getting, like how they can be involved, kind of what you're doing, talking one-on-one. So we don't actually do, even though some parents still serve because that's just how it's been done, we don't do the parent partnership here anymore. Mm-hmm. But we still want to encourage them to serve. We're just not making it like you do it or your kids don't come type of thing, because I truly do want people that have a heart for kids. But I have heard of people who didn't have a heart for kids start serving in kids and did develop a heart for kids. So I know that those things can happen.
I mean, if they're a parent, they love kids. So
some of them will say they love their own. That's what David says. I don't like kids. I just like my own.
Yeah, well, but in the same token, we're a part of developing your own kids, and you get to be a part of that. So it's changing the mindset a lot. It's like I don't want to put you in preschool or nursery in a place that you're going to like die at. But, maybe it's you come on a team that plans events with me. Or maybe you go and you do an event somewhere else where it's a little bit low key, or maybe you just run a check-in station. Maybe you're great at computers. Doesn't mean that I'm going to put you in nursery and you're going to be there forever and ever. So that's what I'm kind of trying to work with. I go, what are your skill sets as a parent? Where you feel comfortable at? Because there's so many aspects of ministry in kids ministry. That doesn't mean you're in nursery holding a baby. So what does that look like for you? Where do you fit? And then sometimes I like switch out parents. Like, okay, Mom, why don't you try this month in this area or these 4 months in this area? And then next week, she's like, oh, I'm going to take a break from that. And Dad's going to step in. He's going to move into a different area. So it gives me a little bit more to work with and trying to see where they feel their way through it. It's like one parent's like, I can't be with kids because she gets migraines all the time. She can't be in the classroom for an hour and a half, but she'll do my check-in. And she does my check-in every other Sunday. And it's a little bit more 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour. That's a little bit more her speed. So that's just how I've been feeling my way through it. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not.
Hey, it's a plan though. You got to have a plan in place. Otherwise nothing's going to happen.
Right.
I know one thing that I had done to help develop and build a team, which I haven't done yet here. I've been here now for a little over a year, my first year was kind of just trying to figure out how to be here. So now I'm starting to think this is like perfect timing for me with the team stuff. But in the past, one thing I've done was actually go to my current team. And so within one of the meetings that we had, I presented with them the idea of having someone that can shadow them in ministry. And so I told them, I said, hey, think of somebody that you know. And I explained to them that their group of people that they know is different than the group of people that I know, and that they know some people that I don't. And so I said, think of somebody that you know that you think would be good at what you do in kids ministry, or you think could do what you do. And then I said, and then all I want you to do is go ask them if they'll shadow you. Basically, will they come on a Sunday and will they tag alongside you that Sunday to see what you do and see if it's something they might ever want to do. I had them make sure to let them know that them coming and shadowing did not commit them to our kids ministry. And then what I did is everybody who shadowed got entered into a drawing for a gift card. And then everybody who had someone shadow got entered into a drawing, which people, some people did it just for the gift card. But one thing I found, there was one young man who, a teenage girl had asked him to shadow. And he said, he's so funny now. He said, when she asked me that, I thought I literally was coming in and it was like some kids' church thing where I was pretending to be her shadow. He's like, I had no idea what she was talking about. So he just said, yes, he'd come. He ended up actually serving in our kids ministry, becoming a kids ministry intern with me, and is now working on credentials to be a kids pastor.
That's
all
awesome.
Because somebody in the kids ministry, and I didn't even know who he was. I'd never met him before until he stepped in and just kind of observed. And then found out he's like spectacular at kids ministry, you know.
That's awesome.
So that is something I want to do here, because it's true. There's people that serve in your ministry that know people that you probably don't even know who they are. And so you could find, you know, your next best intern, or one of these 2 to 3 people that already have your same heart, or, you know, you're like all-star in ministry that you didn't even know they were hiding in the seats and they didn't know either. And that was his thing. He said, I didn't know I would like kids ministry till I got into kids ministry. It wasn't that he didn't like kids. It just wasn't something he thought of. So I know that's part of my plan for here, is just challenging my team to figure out and just asking them one person. Because, you know, let's say you had a team of 5, and if 5 of them thought of one person, and if you even got, you know, 1 or 2 from that, or, you know what I mean? Like every person we can add is a benefit to the ministry, and especially if they have that passion and heart for kids and they're good, and it's just more fun that way. So does anybody else have thoughts of any plans to put in place to grow your team?
What I had to do when I first started out as children's, I'm still struggling to find a whole bunch of adult leaders to help out, to really tap into the youth. And I've pretty much my entire team is middle and high schoolers right now. There's a couple other adults helping out. And I wondered how that would go, because they're young and, you know, have a lot of things going on and stuff, but they were also some of the most willing and enthusiastic to step in, help, and have been the most consistent compared to my adult leaders. They have been the ones who have been most consistently there to help out with anything that they can. So that has been a big part of it. I'm still looking to try and bring in more adult leaders to complement that, but we'd be completely dead in the water if it wasn't for the youth. So.
Some of the youth are my favorite too.
Yes. And don't worry, they'll be adults eventually.
Yes.
Right? You develop them now.
Or they'll move away.
No. You can keep them.
Go to college or something like that.
I just had that happen with some of mine. I'm like, all right. I said, whenever you're back in town, you can always come join us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. They do. They go to college, those stinking kids. Oh, I love it. I love it.
We're the because I'm kind of working through this with like our nursery team especially. We had a lady who was serving back there every single Sunday, 0, and she was phenomenal, but said that's really not healthy, so we're gonna limit you to one. We do 2 services, so limit her to 1 service, and then she can attend the other one. And then realize, oh wow, that's a big gap to try to fill. And the question we're facing is with a 2 to a room minimum, and do they both have adults? Is an adult and a teen okay? So, because as we're recruiting, building teams, that's one of the things I'm trying to think through is how many adults mandatory do we need just for accountability and security purposes compared to utilizing our teams. What are your guys' policies on that?
So our policy is 2 adults in a room. That doesn't always work out. But we always have at least 1 adult, 1 teen person. One of the benefits that we have is in our building is our nursery is kind of, you walk into it and it's open. So there's no doors. So like anybody can walk in at any time and there's no doors. It's very open. It's over by our bathroom. So people are walking by the hallway all the time and can look in all the time. So I try to keep 2 adults in there all the time, which is really hard. But the size of our church and the amount of people I need on a team doesn't always work. So I try to do an older teen with that adult if it comes down to that. Sometimes having a husband and wife team is great because they can go in and one day they'll just serve and you got the 2 adults there. Sometimes that works for us. Downstairs, I have another, in the preschool, I have the same struggle is getting 2 adults because the size of our church to facilitate the amount of kids that are coming with the amount of people needed is it's something we're working towards, and I'm always trying to find that 2 adult thing. But I will do an adult and I will do a teen with an adult. But all of our doors are downstairs are half doors, and they don't fully close either. So all the they're walking in and out, and I do have a floater who's walking in the hall too. So it's some of the things we do is where we are right now. It's not my goal. My goal is to have 2 adults. We're going to get there, but until we get there, that's kind of how I facilitate it.
That's good.
We've tried several different ways. We've done adult with a teenager, with the understanding that the teenager cannot be left alone. The adult has to be there. We've also done husband and wife, which did not go well at our church. It may go well at somebody else's church, but it didn't go good at our church. And right now, the preschool director has got, she's got 2 preschool leaders and then a nursery person who is right across the hall. So one of the preschool teachers is back and forth, and the doors are always open. That's what we're trying right now. She's really struggling with getting help with the nursery too. So you're not alone in the boat.
Yeah. So I know here the way that we run stuff here is based on numbers of kids. So we have like a specific ratio that we want in our nursery and a ratio that we want in our preschool classrooms and a ratio of kids to adults in our elementary class. And to be honest, the only area where we're like exceeding our ratio, like where we have more adults than what we would need, is our elementary class. Just because people want to serve in there, And so with our preschool, like our numbers are 1 adult to 8 kids. Now our preschool area there's a twos class that is part of our preschool area, and then it's the kids that are 3 through kindergarten. But that's just a number that we have chosen. And so like my heart would be to have, right now we have most Sundays 2 people that serve in the class. I told our preschool director as much as she can to try and make sure they're 2 adults. But there are some Sundays where it is an adult and a teen, which I'll say this. I think, Christina, you said it too, like a couple times, that's not my vision. So I feel like first what you need to do is figure out what your vision is. Like my heart and my vision would be to have 3 people in the classroom so that if one person had to leave to go to the bathroom, you still have 2. Or if one had to step out for a minute, you're not like trying to figure out how can I step out of the classroom and leave one person by themselves. Because you never want to have just one person in the class. So even though we have, our numbers 1 to 8, which would allow us to have quite a few kids in a classroom, we don't have that many kids in a classroom. It allows us to do other things. So that was my challenge to her, was first try to get 2 adults in the classroom. And then your third can be a teen. So you'd have 2 adults and a teen, you know. Like I said, for us right now, we're at the same spot. We have almost every classroom has the 2. They always have 2, but rarely do we have a classroom that has 3. But what I had her do for our nursery as well as for our preschool, I said, look at the numbers, look at how many kids you have, and then ask yourself, how many volunteers do I need for the number of kids I have? So our nursery numbers are smaller because our nursery is birth through 23 months. And so I'm like, you can't have a 1-to-8 ratio in there. That's not going to work. You can barely have a 1-to-2 ratio in there, you know, if they're little bitty.
I think state law is 1-to-4 for birth to 23 months.
Yes. Yeah. And I think what we did here is we made ours 1-to-3. We kind of tweaked it a little bit just because in my mind, I'm like, state law, yeah, but I can't hold 4 kids if they were all crying. I can, you know what I mean? Like you can only hold 2 or so many but that's the way we run it, is kind of look at the number of kids that we currently have and try to schedule who's serving around that. And even though I would like to have, you know, at least the 2 adults, at this point for me, I'm okay with there being a teen step in, knowing that we want to move towards looking for more adults. So I think you have to have that, like, where you want to be vision. And then you also have to look at the reality of where you are, right? Because you might not be where you want to be, but if you don't have something to move towards, you'll just stay the way that you are currently. But yeah, and then you just start praying and having God show you and reveal who might be those people, and you start filling in from there. Yeah. Building a team is fun. It can be, right? So I love this concept when thinking about people serving, and to have this written down here. People need to serve the church even more than you need them to serve. And I was reading that like, man, that's so good. Like for me, I need to change my mindset sometimes. I think sometimes we're looking for people. I don't want to say out of desperation, but maybe we feel like that, right? That we're desperate and we need people. But really, if we can shift our brains and our mindset and think about the fact that people do need to serve, like for themselves, and thinking about how we're really doing people a favor when we're able to get them involved in a ministry that's fulfilling. So I want you to think about this question. How did you grow spiritually when you began to serve?
My husband's peeking at.
I was just trying to see
Who's in there? What's going on? Say hi.
Hi.
He's going to answer the question.
I'm gonna answer the question now.
I'm looking for TV.
What do you guys think? When you started serving, how did you grow spiritually?
Well, we were trained under some children's pastors. I was a newbie at it all. But I learned a lot being in there with those children's pastors that trained us. And they helped me understand more. They helped me grow more. And so when I got more involved and when I would go to the, big church, I understood more. So I think I learned a lot. I'm sorry, nobody's answering my phone. I think I learned a lot under them. They prayed with us a lot. We spent a lot of time with them. They really were a very big impact on us. So I'm going to leave for a minute, so I'll be right back.
Go for it, Mary. Anybody else? How did you grow spiritually?
Trinity Christian, this is Mary. Hello.
And for me, it was reorienting from self to others.
Yeah.
Really serving is the only kind of context where you're really forced to do that. And so I never really served in children's ministry. So, but whether it was through the college or other service projects that the church did, just across process of realizing, even though it was funny. I remember the first few times I served, like trying to think, oh, other people recognize this, and then like I'll get opportunities from it, and then realizing that's backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really not here to be recognized. I'm here to bless other people, and
Yeah,
it's a huge step.
that's good.
I'd say I grew spiritually in every way once I started serving, because I don't grow when I'm not being challenged, and serving is a challenge that forces me to grow.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
I would definitely say that my faith was very much just a title only until I started serving. That's when it started to really become real. So.
I know for me, when I first started serving in kids ministry specifically, I was very challenged by, am I living out what we're teaching the kids? If we're going to talk to kids about having daily quiet time with God or living out our faith outside the church walls and those things, am I doing that? Because how can I stand in front of a group of kids and tell them to do something I'm not doing? And so for me, it caused me to do those things. Actually, even now, it still challenges me in my faith to do that. I was yesterday telling my husband, about a month ago, we challenged our kids. We talked about living like people matter, and living like all people matter, not just the people that you like, but even the people that are hard to like. And so I had all the kids think of somebody in their life that is more difficult to like or more difficult to love. And I said, now ask God what you can do for them this week. I said, and do it. And in that service, God challenged me to do the same. And I'm so bad, it took me a whole month. I didn't do it, what God told me to do, until yesterday. I finally did it. And my husband walked in and said, well, why did you send that girl a message? And I was explaining to him, like, well, because a month ago I was supposed to do it. And God reminded me in prayer yesterday that I still hadn't done it. And again, if I'm going to expect kids to do something, I've got to be willing to do it. And so I know for me that I'm still learning that and still trying to grow in that. We want to develop these kids and give them a strong foundation of their faith, but we need to have a strong foundation of our faith too. And it's not something that you ever stop developing. And so I think that's why I love kids ministry. I feel like every ministry you can grow in, but man, there's so much growing in kids ministry when you look at even the faith of a child and how they learn and the things that they do. And then being careful the things that you say, right? Because kids are so awesome that you can say something and they take everything you say as fact, usually. And so just watching how you minister and how you act around them. So I know for me, the kids ministry itself has changed me a lot in my spiritual growth. And like I said, and it still does. So
I think it's like ditto on all of that. I think serving in kids ministry challenges your growth in every facet, everything that you're weak in, everything that you're strong in, everything that you just don't even have a clue about. God is challenging you to grow deeper and become more mature and see things differently. So in the last 8 years that I've been doing kids ministry, it's just, I feel like every part of me is growing. Every bit of me is growing from the inside out and challenging me and causing me to go deeper personally in my walk with the Lord, and in ministry, and being a pastor, and being a mom, being a parent myself. I feel like just serving, and once again, it's just Jesus' way of doing things, right? Serving others, it just causes us to be more like him.
it's good. I want to encourage you guys, just when you're thinking about people, looking for people to serve in your ministry and building a team, think about that specifically, how you have grown or are growing spiritually because you're serving. Because I think that will change the way we approach people and the way that we present serving to them. I know I don't know if it's a quote or a saying or whatever, that no one wants to join a dying ministry, right? People that want to come in to your ministry. Like if you're painting the picture of desperation and we don't have any volunteers, people are going to start wondering why you don't have volunteers, and they're not going to be super pumped to come into your ministry. But if you can paint the picture of what it looks like to serve and the growth that will be experienced from serving and the importance of serving, I think people will be more excited to join a ministry that wants them to grow spiritually versus like, we just need people, you know? And so changing our mindset and our mentality and keeping this in front of us, how have we grown? And I think even sharing that with people, you know, man, I know when I started serving, these are the things that God did in my life. And I know you want those things in your life too. So why not try it out and let's see what happens, you know? And then watch, because even somebody who might not have a heart and passion for kids will grow if they step in kids ministry. I mean, you guys know that. It's inevitable. And so it's just kind of shifting our brain a little bit too, as we're trying to find volunteers to serve in our ministry. And then I want you guys to think about this, and we're going to actually finish our meeting with this question. Do you have a monthly recruiting goal? This was talked about in the video. You know, Pastor Kelly talked about how he had a whiteboard, and on it, his goal was to recruit 2 people a month, and he had it in front of him. And that's the huge thing about a goal. First, do you have one? If not, let's get one, right? And maybe it's 2 people, maybe it's 1, whatever it is. Having a goal is better than not. And then I would say this, once you have a goal for recruiting, it needs to be written somewhere. You're more likely to meet a goal if it's written down than if it's just like up here and it's never put on paper or in front of you so that you can see it. And I remember walking into his office. I mean, he did one of my mentorship class things where I had to come and meet with him. And I remember walking in, and I'd seen that board, you know, that had the months, and it had the number 1 and it had the number 2. And for past months, he had written down who was recruited, and he didn't erase. So for a year, he didn't erase the months prior. And my assumption is that was to continually encourage him that his goal was 2 a month, and look at all these months that he recruited 2, type of thing. And to encourage him to continue to do that. Because we can say we want more volunteers, but if we don't have a plan, it's going to be a little bit more challenging for us to find them. So think about that. Do you have a monthly recruiting goal? And if not, what do you want it to be? Because it can be very simple, and you don't have to wait to start meeting that goal. I'll say this too. So I know I can't remember who, maybe it was you, Mary, had said, it's hard for me to get in the hallway. Pastor Kelly had talked about being in the hallway where people are. I get that, because if you're not to the place yet where you have those like 2 to 3 people that have like your same heart and passion, or that you don't have necessarily maybe the person in the class that you're in that could run that so you could step out, it is hard to get to the hallway. And one thing that I did when I couldn't make it to the hallway to meet people was I actually started looking at even just the parents that came into our kids ministry to pick up their kids, and I watched how they interacted with other people's kids. So not just how they interacted with theirs. And from there, I found some really amazing preschool teachers that I just told them that exactly what I did. Hey, you know, I've watched you every time you pick up, you know, your 2 sons or whatever. And I watched the way that you interact with other kids. And I just wondered, have you ever thought about serving with kids? And there were 2 specific moms that I did that with. And both of them were like, actually, I love kids. I'm like, oh, go figure, you know? And so they stepped in. So don't be discouraged if you can't make it to the hallway, because there's going to be adults that come and pick up kids, and you might find your next best leader. It could be a parent of a child that's already in the ministry that you're, you know, where you're serving their kids. And so I just ask God to give me eyes to see and to help me be intentional as I'm building relationship with those parents. Because that can help you develop a team.
Yeah. One of the things I've been toying with as I've been thinking about recruiting is how to engage the older generation, so grandparents and retirees. Partly they've got huge amounts of experience. And then also it seems like trying to get young people involved, they're relegated to kind of nobody else kind of wants to do, like cleaning team or whatever. So um, part of the vision that I'm working on developing is how do we build multi-generational engagement. And with so many grandparents already tasked with raising children, trying to think of ways to build and resource them, so to create some other relationships that might not have them otherwise.
That's good.
One of the things that I've done with some of the multi-generational things, because I wanted to start including some of our older generation, is on Wednesday nights is a great night sometimes to do that, is to actually schedule some of our older people to just do the lesson. They don't have to be in charge of like facilitating the night, but if they could come in, give them and have them look at the Bible lesson, and then they share the Bible lesson from that day. And it's not every single week, but every once a month or every other week, to kind of help the teacher that's in there to say, hey, here's the Bible lesson. Can you do this for us this week? And it kind of brings them in. And I'm sure some of them aren't, in some churches might not go well, but we've had some go really well because of the great wealth of knowledge that they have in the heart. And we had one of our 87-year-old gentlemen come in who's been at this church for 80 years. Mm-hmm. And by the time he was done sharing with the boys, he was crying. And it was I got to be in there, and it was such a sweet and tender moment. But that moment would have been missed if I had not invited him to come in. So sometimes they can't, like some of the older generation can't come in and they can't facilitate a whole entire service or a whole entire time. But to have them come in and just do one portion of it is a great way to kind of start to integrate them. My dad is disabled, and so he's in a wheelchair, and he comes down and he does rangers with the guys. He's moving to every once a month, and he'll come in and he'll do the Bible lesson. But it's also great to include people that don't look like you right. in its ministry as well. And on the other end with the youth, and I know that Lisa does this too, is that they get to be a part of the lesson. I give them portions of the lessons. They teach it in preschool, and it's amazing. Some of my best leaders, some of my best teachers are kind of my teens, because have so much energy and so much fun with it. But that's something I've been working on too, is trying to incorporate all the generations.
What do you guys do to? Seems like a lot of people I talk to, the bulk of their teams are women. How do you encourage men to be involved?
So that was a real struggle at our church, mostly women. And we're talking about how we grow. What are some goals that we have? Like how many, like with Pastor Kelly, you would put 2 people up on their board. What are some goals that I've had is that I've been, one of my goals is to have one guy in our elementary service every single Sunday. We didn't have that. So that was just one thing that I had to talk with gentlemen about. I had to get them passionate and interested about serving, and which for me as a woman pastor leading can be a challenge too, is to get guys to come under your leadership can be just a side thing. It's a little bit of a struggle. But just going and talking with them and sharing your heart. I'm like, these boys, they need to see a guy worshiping. It means something so much more, and sharing your heart and passion about that. But that was my goal, is every single Sunday we have to have a guy somewhere in kids ministry and putting them in. So that was one of my goals. I just made it a goal.
Yeah. Anybody else had anything that worked well to try and incorporate men into the ministry?
I know that Pastor Rachel from Traverse City was sharing with me, because we were talking about that. What she shared with me was that she actually brings a gentleman in that has some kind of trade, like a carpenter or a mechanic, and she invites them into the boys' class, and they just, show them an engine or, that type of thing. And she says that works really well with her. That's something that's going to be one of my goals this year, is to try to get more of our men incorporated in our boys' classes on our Wednesday nights. I think it's a great idea. and it gives a chance for the boys to connect with other men, and they also get to learn something, like what parts of the engine, or how to make a certain cut on a piece of wood. I just think that's a really good idea that I'm going to follow up on.
Yeah, that is good. I feel like I can't speak to this well. We have a lot of men who serve in the ministry here, but that's not a testimony to me. That's a testimony to Pastor Kelly. They were already here when I got here. Yeah, but I had just written down that question to even think about. Like you said, Christina, especially when you're a woman in the position of the pastor. I encourage the men that currently serve in our ministry and thank them constantly for what they're doing, because, and I say this to them, they can minister to the boys in our ministry in a way that I will never be able to, even if I wanted to, because there is something about that father figure, or that grandpa figure, or that big brother, or whatever it is, that man in a boy's life, that a woman just can't be that, And so just painting that picture of what that looks like. The cool thing that we've got going on right now in our church is that, so we don't have a lot of ministry to men right now in the church, and our lead pastor just met with my husband, who's our connections pastor, and basically just said, hey, we need to start doing something for men. And their heart is basically calling the men of our church to step up in every area, not just in serving, but in our church, if you look, our church, especially families with kids, our families with kids are a lot of single moms. Whether they are a single mom, or they're coming and the dad's not coming, like he's just at home. And so that was one thing they've been talking about, is like, how do we get this church to reach out to the men in our community and the men in our church? And I think this ties right in. And how do we get them to step up and serve, even to do more than just show up? Because they need to grow spiritually too, and they need to have that servant's heart and be doing that. So I think that's a great, maybe that becomes part of your monthly goal. James, maybe that's part of yours, is God help me figure this out, but I want to recruit. Maybe you're saying, hey, I want two people a month, and one of them is going to be a man, one's going to be a male. And maybe that's part of what God gives you, Anybody else have any thoughts on that? All right. Well, I know, Ange, you just rejoined us. We're getting ready to end. You're just that good. You made it at the end. So, I just want to encourage you guys. I don't know how everybody else's huddles go, but I love our huddle so much. I think that you guys are phenomenal. And again, every time we've done these, and we've done 3 so far, this is our 3rd, I'm just over here taking pages and pages of notes. Like, these guys are so smart, and they're just so good. And so I hope that you guys are feeling like you're getting stuff from each other, and really that these are a benefit to you, because I know it's benefiting me, and just to be encouraged by you guys, and knowing that we're not alone, right, in ministry.
I'm so sad I missed it all, Lisa.
It got recorded just for you. You have to watch it.
Wonderful. So I can go back and look at this one then and get all that good information.
You're going to want to. It's all about building a team. That's what we talked about today, and I feel like it was great.
I was just meeting with a new volunteer member. That's why
I like it. Yes, that's important.
Yes.
So I want to talk to you guys about the next date for our Hydrate Huddle, because we will want to do one in September. So this one's going to be interesting and a little bit tricky, because I'm having a baby in September.
Congratulations.
No, thank you. So I want to put a date out there, and then you just be ready. If I send like an email that says like, hey, just kidding, the baby came early, or something like that, we will have a huddle for September. My due date is the 28th. And so that's where I'm like, all right. My thought, it seems like Thursdays have worked pretty well. And so my thought was to try for the 20th, which I understand is like a week before my due date. But does anybody have a conflict with that if we try for Thursday, September 20th?
I won't be here. I've got another meeting I have to be in Mount Pleasant.
Sorry.
Food bank.
You're forgiven.
Works for me.
Okay.
Works for me.
Okay.
I have to look real quick.
Checking.
Just trying to throw it out there so we can get it early and then I can send it to everyone.
I'll try to figure out my camera issue too in the meantime.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand why it's not working, and I'm not smart enough to tell you. I don't know Zoom well enough.
It works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll do this. We'll shoot for the 20th. Like I said, be ready because I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, if you're having a baby on the 20th, I'll come and I'll bring my camera and then we'll just do it while you're pushing.
I'm having a C-section. You won't. It'll just be
Curtain.
like a curtain there. That'll be good.
No, don't do that.
I'm completely
My husband
surprised
would be
why
like-
there's no guys a part of the Hydrate Huddle.
Yeah, this is actually only for women this time. I know. My husband would be like, seriously, you're not working with a child."
No.
But yeah, so September 20th, I'll send that out to everyone.
Is it 10 a.m. again?
Yep, we'll do 10 a.m. I feel like that's worked pretty well.
Yep.
And then,
And if you're having a baby on the 20th, we'll all understand. We'll meet in October.
yeah, well, I figured I'd throw that out there so you're aware that there's a possibility. But I've tried having discussions with this baby to let him know his due date is the 28th, so that's when he can come. But you never know. Kids, they do their own thing, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so thank you guys so much. Be looking. I'll put this recording up on YouTube so people can rewatch it and stuff like that. And
Thank you, Lisa.
you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.